Welcome to this live event where the topic is State of Bitcoin in the Nordics. And what we are going to do today is that we are going to discuss this topic together with 18 business leaders, thought leaders from all the Nordics. And we are going to dig into the topic on different ways. But Bitcoin today, it's not only blockchain, it is business, it is bank, it is börse. So different kinds of ways to discuss this topic. And we are really, really happy that a lot of people have joined us. And of course, we know that not everybody have had the possibility to use Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So, but all the channels that we are broadcasting on will also have availability to show the recordings. And we are live on LinkedIn events. We are live on X. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook, and also then on a landing page on Kuiper. So there are several options to follow. Regarding comments, we recommend that people are mainly using the LinkedIn events for that, both regarding questions and comments, because then we have all the conversation one place, and it's a little easier for us to follow the talk. And when we planned this for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks ago, we couldn't imagine the timing, how perfect it was, and it really, really is. And that's because Bitcoin is now talk of the town, not only in the crypto community or in the Bitcoin community, but also in traditional finance, also in other types of industries that are working on how to implement digital assets. So therefore, we will dig into it on different ways. And this is not an in-depth conversation. It is sort of an overview so that you can find out how Bitcoin is influencing several agendas. And of course, we have a lot of great speakers that you can connect. We have also shared their profile on our site, and they also their LinkedIn profile, so you can contact them if you want to. And everybody has joined without any type of agreements, or we have been able to build the best program for you, the viewers and the listeners. But we have also get some extra support from partners. That is from K33, the Norwegian crypto broker, also from Firi, which is the largest crypto exchange in Norway, with also activities in Denmark. We also have Ace Digital, which is a newcomer in the space, as a partner, and also then Agora 3, together with their mother company, Klein Group. And we thank you very, very much for you guys giving us the possibility to do this event in the professional way, we will hope. Then we can start to dig into the topics, and we will then welcome Torbjørn Bull Jensen to the stage. And hello, Torbjørn.
Hello from Oslo.
Yes, we are from Oslo here then. And you have worked on this space for a lot of years, and I remember that 2 or 3 years ago you were at something which is called Betalingsformidlingskonferensen. I don't know if you remember that one, but then you argued for the case of Bitcoin. I don't think that everybody in that hall agree with you, but what is the case of Bitcoin today in 2025?
So right now, we're witnessing a transformation of the whole global financial system. And I believe that Bitcoin is about to emerge as the future bedrock of global finance. We're not there yet, but to me, it's very clear that the world is in need of a new reserve currency. It's currently built on the dollar, but the dollar has become weaponized. It's over-indebted. And I believe that Bitcoin will emerge as the new reserve currency. Take the position that gold had historically and become digital gold in the future.
Yeah, but is it then only for investment, or does it have other types of use cases? For instance, let me take an example. For 1 week ago, there was Oslo Freedom Forum in Norway. And when you talk to people that are coming from autocratic regimes or from poorer countries, they don't have VIPs. They don't have that kind of easy tool. So, what is the use case for the third world?
So I think Bitcoin will be used as money. And as money, it'll be used both as store of value, an investment if you like, but then also as a medium of exchange. Probably not as a unit of account in the foreseeable future, but Bitcoin is already being used for more efficient cross-border payments. We're seeing it being used for microtransactions leveraging Lightning. And we see it being used as a censorship-resistant way to transfer wealth and store wealth. So this is already happening. And to me personally, it's especially the payment case that's always been fascinating. I did my master thesis on Bitcoin back in 2013. And it was the possibility to make or enable more efficient remittances that really caught my interest. And this is possible because Bitcoin is unique in that it is a digital bearer asset. It's a digital valuable object, which is not a claim on anyone, which means that it is completely borderless. You can transfer wealth over internet without relying on a middleman and without the risk of funds getting frozen or seized. So it is happening. I think we'll see much more of the payment use case in the decade to come. That said, the investment case is the main engine for Bitcoin at the moment.
Just a follow-up question regarding payments. I think that Jack Dorsey, the founder of X, or Twitter, of course, he said that if Bitcoin won't be a payment rail or payment way of doing things, it will be that Bitcoin will not fulfill its objects or mission. Do you agree on that?
Not fully. A lot of people, when they talk about money, are very kind of binary in their view. They think that if you can't use it to buy small normal goods, it can't be money. Or they think the only important thing is kind of store of value. And I think it's much more sliding. You do see Bitcoin already being used for larger settlements across borders. And it could be possible to have a future where it never takes off as a kind of retail payment instrument, but still is leveraged as a means of kind of settlement for larger transactions. That it still can emerge as kind of the bedrock of global finance. Personally, I would both like to see Bitcoin being used much more for retail payments and succeed in that regard, because that would bring a lot of value to people who are currently excluded from efficient payment rails in many ways. But it doesn't have to happen, and it's not given. It's very interesting to see that Cash App is adding kind of more support for this, that we see payment companies enabling Lightning. But for now, I think it's fair to say that stablecoins has a head start when it comes to being used for payments, whereas Bitcoin is more used for store of value and settlement, although that might change in the future.
And then if we talk about the investment part, because the old way of thinking about Bitcoin has been that you should control it yourself, and it was also a decentralized type of money. But the last 1.5 or 2 years, things has happened. We started with the ETFs last year. What do you think that the influence of that, traditional capital and investors are going into Bitcoin, but not Bitcoin directly, but wrapped up in an ETF, for instance?
So obviously the demand for Bitcoin is driving up the price of Bitcoin. But also when Wall Street companies are coming into this space, they are not only taking Bitcoin into their structures, they are also pulled into the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They have to deal with players that can move actual Bitcoins. They have to understand the cryptography of doing custody. They have to develop strong routines for how to do multi-sig, etc., such that they can protect their clients' funds. I think what is very powerful with Bitcoin is that you can do self-custody. And I think as an industry, it's important to fight for that right, because there is a risk that it can become illegal in the worst case down the line to do self-custody as a private individual. If that ends up being the case, I think we lose the big potential in Bitcoin, which is kind of permissionless access. So I think fighting for the possibility of doing self-custody, ensuring that the project continues to stay open, which is also giving it all its kind of innovation, is important. For now, I see the entrance of Wall Street as a positive, as it brings more legitimacy, more awareness, more understanding of Bitcoin. And the big players on Wall Street can't really change the code. They can't force me to run another software. And they haven't tried so far. But it'll be interesting to see down the line if they do try, to see how it plays out.
So if there is a Trojan horse anywhere here, then it's Bitcoin that is the Trojan horse into the old-fashioned finance?
Yes, I think so. And also, because old finance also really needs the core capabilities of Bitcoin to reap its benefits. For instance, one thing that's going to explode in the coming years is Bitcoin collateralized lending. Bitcoin is the perfect pledge for a loan. If you have an over-collateralized loan, there's zero counterparty risk, which means that any institution that holds Bitcoin and can move those Bitcoins and put it as collateral can get funding at the lowest possible rates in the economy, lower than any other entity or any other type of loan structure. We're not there today, but we're going to get there. And that's only possible if you can actually move those Bitcoins. Otherwise, if the Bitcoins are held by an institution, the creditor will take a credit risk on that institution. Then we're back to traditional finance and the frictions within. So the frictionless enablers of Bitcoin requires the actual use of Bitcoin on the blockchain, not only tracked as ETFs owned by and controlled by BlackRock and others.
And then we have to talk a little more about this Bitcoin treasury strategy. We have a panel coming up a little later, and it is already crowded because we have 4 people in that regard. But you have also come out with a Bitcoin strategy.
Yes.
And why do you see this? So many companies using this way of thinking about Bitcoin on the balance sheet?
So talking for K33, it's very easy. There's 2 reasons why we're building our balance sheet in Bitcoin. One is that we strongly believe that Bitcoin will be the best performing asset over the coming years. And we want to put our money where our mouth is. This is what our research is telling us. This is what our insight is telling us. The other is that as a broker, we can really leverage a strong balance sheet. It's what will enable us to scale our products, to mirror out other exchanges to our clients, to move into Bitcoin collateralized lending, and to scale our operation. We are a financial company, and as a financial company, our balance sheet is the basis for our product development. So for us, it already has enabled us to improve our margins, and within a reasonable amount of time, our clients will find that they can get more products as we can use the Bitcoin as collateral and unlock kind of brokerage of more services. I think for the broader spectrum, I think a lot of it is driven by the bullish sentiment around Bitcoin, the expectation that Bitcoin will appreciate over the longer term, and then some of the benefits of bringing that into an equity as an instrument. And if we take MicroStrategy, they are in many ways doing structured finance, where they're taking Bitcoin and they're structuring into different types of exposures, and they're selling those different exposures to different types of investors. Some are the bond buyers of the bonds they are issuing, some are the equity buyers, and in many ways they're taking Bitcoin and they're slicing and dicing it to fit different type of investors. Of course, there's also a very clear element of hype around this. I mean, we see a lot of the companies embracing a Bitcoin strategy, seeing a massive uplift in share prices, and there's a big momentum, there's a big PR effect of doing it. But for K33, it's the strategic, rational, and strong belief in Bitcoin which is driving the decision.
Thank you, Torbjørn. And now we have looked a little on the umbrella way of looking at Bitcoin, so to say, and we will move on to the next part of our discussion. So thank you very much then, Torbjørn, and we will then welcome Christian Ander from Gobit, and also representing the first Bitcoin exchange in Sweden, BTCX. And welcome, Christian.
Thank you, Morten. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone tuning in to this live stream. It's very exciting times to talk about Bitcoin when it's really evolving all over the world right now.
Yes, it is, and but maybe for as an early mover, what drove you to be interested in Bitcoin and start a business on it in 2011, was it?
Correct. Yeah, so I've always been a curious soul looking for new things. If it's open source, and Bitcoin was one of these subjects. I was actually doing my pre-PhD work at Uppsala University with a completely different topic, but it was related because it's very technical, and that's how I came into Bitcoin as from the technical side. And 2011, it was quite a good entrance because Bitcoin was a protocol, a technical protocol for transferring value, and it was open source, so it was very easy for me to come into that. And the financial value of Bitcoin at that time was not at all as we discuss today. It was not seen as a store of value. It was not seen as an investment. It was just seen as an interesting protocol to have aside with the World Wide Web and internet.
But today you are, will you define yourself as a broker or an exchange or a combination maybe?
Yeah. In Swedish we say handelsplats, which is like a trading place. We don't have our own order book. We use several liquidity providers to make sure we always get the best price. And for this, the platform is let's say more a simplistic way, and that's also what our customers are wanting. They want a simple solution to get into Bitcoin and don't overcomplicate with the trading books and the hype, basically.
And the trading platform is in principle then Bitcoin only. We will also talk to Torkel, which has a company which is called Bitcoin only. But is that the case? So that is mainly Bitcoin on the exchange?
Yeah, correct. So when we launched over a decade ago, we decided that we want to focus on Bitcoin. Early on, we saw that different blockchains and cryptocurrencies came up, but it's all speculation. And we decided to focus on Bitcoin not because it's a trend, because we see its importance in society. If you look historically, all good societies has a stable and sound money structure, and this is what Bitcoin represents. So I believe Bitcoin is more of a big shift in how we can build a society going forward. And if you want to have a flourishing civilization, you really need to trust the base level, which money represents. So from that perspective, it was an easy decision. Like we want to contribute to a good society, and Bitcoin is the best technical innovation that we have for money, and possibly the best we ever had out throughout the human history.
And you have been growing, especially so far. It's the Q4, I think, that you have published results from, and then you grew very much on the OTC. Explain to us what is the OTC market and what kind of investors are there?
So OTC is another name for private banking. We are rebranding it, so it's more a normal name that normal customers are used to. So we have, I would say, three types of the private banking clients. We have the Bitcoin OGs, who's been around for many years. They maybe bought Bitcoin a decade ago from us, so they trust us and know us. And since we've been around such a long time, we also know the ins and outs and the problems that the Swedish landscape offers. So when we have the banking issue, we have the political issue, we have the government issue, and we can navigate that in a very fluid way. So people come to us because of our reputation. And then we also have companies or institutions that want to dip their toe into Bitcoin. Maybe they have cash over and they want to protect it from inflation. So we have these kind of clients. And then also a more family office type of clients, wealthy individuals who maybe made an exit or some kind of a good investment in other areas and want to explore Bitcoin as a store of value and also an investment. So it's an area we're definitely focusing more and more on. We see a lot of traction and growth from that.
So even if you own the OTC trade, are able also to serve your clients on other types of tokens or cryptocurrencies, it is the Bitcoin interest that is driving the volume?
Correct. Bitcoin, I would say, represent at least 95% of the volume, but we do other exotic crypto assets as well. We have had big companies in Sweden who have branches in Asia, and sometimes they get really weird crypto assets, and of course we help them with that as well.
You have also engaged yourself in the political debate in Sweden. We will have a separate political and industry panel later, but you wrote an article in Dagens Industri, I think it was, and why do you think that was needed to reach out to readers and politicians?
So we have an issue with the current banking infrastructure in Sweden. None of the banks are pro-Bitcoin, and they see it as either a threat or nothing they want to invest in, and hence they don't want to have Bitcoin businesses. In the industry, we call this the choke point. Basically, they're trying to remove Bitcoin from the scene by denying them access to infrastructure like banking. So, but in Sweden, we have another really good momentum. Currently, we have 3 members of the parliament talking about Bitcoin, how it can be used as a national state level. And I recently, actually this morning, I talked with Rickard Nordin, which is one of these member of parliaments, and he has a message he wanted to me to take up. So I can just quote him. So he's saying, what is needed in the Nordics is for the politicians to understand that Bitcoin is more than speculation. It's used as a means of payment globally. It can safeguard financial flows for freedom fighters, and it can counter runaway inflation in fragile states. And in fact, it's often more traceable than cash when it comes to crime. And I totally agree with him. And the good thing is that we have a member of the parliament having these views, understand Bitcoin, and can work from the inside. And we're also working with adding a protective legislation for Bitcoin companies such as ourselves. So we have the right to financial infrastructure. That will, of course, take time, but the ball is in movement. So I'm very positive when it comes to the political landscape currently.
That's great, Christian. So things are moving, and we will dig deeper into the political agendas later in the panel. Thank you very much, Christian, for sharing your Bitcoin story, both historically and how you view Bitcoin in the market today. So thank you very much, Christian. And then we will go further to another Bitcoin. Thank you, Christian. And now we will welcome Torkel from Bare Bitcoin. Welcome, Torkel.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes, and you chose the name by the Bitcoin, so that sort of is explaining your mission, isn't it? Or but why did you do that?
Well, it's tying ourselves to the Bitcoin mast, so to speak, right? And we actually get a surprising amount of questions all the time. Oh, either when will you launch other stuff, or when will you launch Bare Ethereum or whatever else? So for the non-Norwegian understanding audience, Bare is just or only in Norwegian, right? So just Bitcoin in English. And of course, we didn't start out with a name and then start what we wanted to do, but when we first started Bare Bitcoin, we realized we felt that the Norwegian market was really lacking in a high quality Bitcoin service. And we also really felt that if we were to have any chance at all to build out the really great service that we wanted to build, there was no way we could include anything else but Bitcoin. We feel that by focusing on only Bitcoin, we can remove 80% of the complexity, but retain 80% of the value. Because as was just said by Christian, right? He said that 95% of his volume was in Bitcoin. And to me, that sounds like, why would you even spend any energy on introducing all this complexity? Complexity in your operations, complexity in your user experience, complexity all across the stack. And I think we have, like, in all my humble honesty, I like to think that we have the best Bitcoin app in Norway, or even the best crypto app, because Bitcoin is what you need in a crypto app, right? But I think we have the best Bitcoin app in Norway, and that's quite obviously because we decided to remove all of this noise, all this non-Bitcoin noise. So we've been very, very strongly committed to Bitcoin only since the very beginning, and we are just growing more and more happy with that decision. These last few years have been quite bad, quite harsh for a few crypto people and a few crypto projects, while Bitcoin has really been growing into its own. So, more and more comfortable with that decision.
And does that mean also that you sort of have been the main exchange for Bitcoiners in Norway?
Yeah, well, it's in a way like how do you even define Bitcoiners, right? I like to define Bitcoiners quite widely. If you own Bitcoin, you're a Bitcoiner, and you can own Bitcoin in your own wallet, or you can own Bitcoin on an exchange, and you should have Bitcoin in your own wallet. But I don't want to have this hardline or dogmatic thing that unless you worship Satoshi every single morning in front of your self-custody altar, then you're not a Bitcoiner, right? So just by looking at the numbers, there's still a bit left to go, right? Before we're the main place for all Bitcoiners, but we are the main place for the more hardcore Bitcoiners, right? The ones that typically hang out on Twitter, or the ones that won't stop talking about Bitcoin to their families, and that has both its benefits and its drawbacks. But I think this is, like, in a way, I think there's a parallel here to what's actually going on with all these Bitcoin treasury strategies, because the way I view them, like, they actually have dual purposes. So one purpose is to acquire Bitcoin and hopefully get financial gain from acquiring Bitcoin, but the other purpose is this memetic thing, right? So first MicroStrategy, and then MetaPlanet, and several of the other Bitcoin treasury companies, they've gained this incredible memetic energy where they're suddenly on everyone's lips, right? Everyone is talking about them, and from when you're looking at the publicly listed company, that brings liquidity to your stock, and it brings volatility to your stock, which again brings interest in your stock. So there's this memetic thing, right? And this memetic thing expresses itself both through people being enthusiastic about us on Twitter and on X, and it expresses itself through Bitcoin treasury company stock suddenly jumping 20, 40, 50, 100%, who knows, per day. So there's lots of benefits to being Bitcoin native and being Bitcoin only.
What if we dig a little into the small businesses or startup or self-employed companies? Are they also looking into Bitcoin treasury or strategies in the small scale?
Yeah, well, we do get outreach all the time from smaller companies interested in buying Bitcoin. and that number is growing every single week. I would say most of the companies are investment-related companies, holding companies, where people have profits from other ventures or profits from property sales or profits from whatever, and they want to plow that into Bitcoin. But we also see more operational companies that actually do run real businesses and make real profits, and want to turn those real profits into real money by buying Bitcoin. And in a way, that's what's warming our hearts the most, right? That's what's really you just love to see that, right? So we have several things on the agenda on that topic, and I think one thing that's really a big pain point is bookkeeping and accounting. Bookkeeping and accounting and taxes is a pain in the ass when you're doing it as a private individual, but when you're doing it as a company, it has to be 100% on. There can't really be any errors whatsoever. So that's an area where we really want to try and make things easier. Hopefully with things coming out for that later this year. And we also see some companies. So to sidetrack a bit while still staying on the topic of companies. So earlier this year, we launched the first version of our external API, where people can receive Bitcoin and send Bitcoin and trade Bitcoin using our publicly available API. And we haven't really done any marketing on that yet, but we have gotten people. We have had developers come to us and develop solutions for e-commerce platforms. So right now, you can actually use on several of the major e-commerce platforms. You can receive Bitcoin and receive the Bitcoin into your own Body Bitcoin company profile using our API solutions. And that's been really nice to see. So if you're interested as a company in receiving Bitcoin, reach out to me and I'll make sure to forward you to the correct people to help you with that. And that's the Bitcoin payment thing is still small. It has been small for 1.5 decades now. We'll see what happens. Honestly, it might stay small forever, but nothing would warm my heart more than seeing Bitcoin payments actually getting some traction in the real world.
At least it seems like a lot of people, at least in Norway, are starting to use energy and discussing opportunities. And you are very often mentioned as the exchange, and also the API is also mentioned from companies that I'm talking to. So thank you very much, Torkel. It will be exciting to see whether you will stay on the course on Body Bitcoin or whether anything will happen. Then we will also move into another topic. We have been part of the topic already, but we will then welcome a panel for a discussion. And the topic of the day is not only the day, but for the last weeks and the last months is Bitcoin treasury companies. And we will then welcome 4 guests into the panel. So we will welcome Sander, we will welcome Christopher, we will welcome Alexander, and also Stig Alexander. So here you are, guys. Now we have room for all 5. And for 2 months ago, I don't know, nobody was talking about Bitcoin treasury in the Nordic frame, at least in the public space. And we have been following you guys along, and we started with you, Christopher, a couple of months ago. And you said that you wanted to create a pure Bitcoin play company and then go to the Swedish Stock Exchange after some time. What inspired you to define this as an opportunity?
Primarily, I think it's needed. Europe doesn't have a good pure play, a good Bitcoin pure play. So we decided to create that. And I think there's no one in Sweden, at least, that's better suited to do that than I am, because I've been part of the Bitcoin community for a very long time, and I'm a very religious Bitcoiner. So it feels very natural to just take that to the next step and to make something where you can have your Bitcoins still in cold storage, but you can generate yield on it, which is the edge case and the utility here of these type of companies. So therefore, we decided to set that in motion immediately, and we're listing. The goal is to list now in June and to raise funds publicly ASAP.
Are you on track on that?
Yeah, it looks like it. So I think if we manage, we will have created. It must be the fastest stock listing ever. Don't quote me on that, but it went really, really fast. And if we can, then the trading commences in June. And we hope to raise funds before that now and get a lot of interest when the share is live. And we also, if we can, we're going to try to get the ticker BTC and the domain btc.se, this type of thing. It was very Bitcoin focused.
If I remember, then your play was that you want to create more Bitcoin per share during your way of doing it. And how can you do that?
Yeah, exactly. And there's two things here. First of all, we're, I think, the first Bitcoin pure play. So we don't have an actual separate operating business, which makes it easier to focus on this. The investor doesn't have to evaluate, for example, with Metaplanet, you can have to evaluate their Bitcoin acquisition strategy and if you like hotels in Tokyo. That's a bit strange to have to do that calculation as an investor. And we found that a lot of people want to get exposure to this type of company, but they want that only. And then they can take a decision on investing in a hotel in Japan separately if they would like that. So in our case, we set this up as a pure play. And what we do is that when the share price is above the net asset value, we issue new shares, or you can have some type of lending or similar just to generate more volatility into the stock. And then when there is a difference between the share price and the actual Bitcoins that we hold, we have an opportunity to generate more Bitcoins per share for our current shareholders. And that's what's attractive and why we've seen such incredible interest here in Sweden and abroad as well for this type of company.
We will include all you guys in this conversation, and we will continue with Alexander Hagen from Ace Digital, because you were the first Norwegian company that launched this kind of strategy, and you had the common situation as Christopher, that you are not listed on the stock exchange yet, but you have planned. And you have also picked up about 50 million kroner in the private placement, but you have a classical background, more you could say, but also traded Bitcoin for many years. So why do you think that your way of your outreach to this investor company has gained so good traction on your company?
Hi, Morten. Thank you for having me. I think traditional investors not sure about what they're going to do about Bitcoin. So we have lots of subscriptions from investors that just want to tap into the market, kind of try to learn about Bitcoin by putting some skin in the game. And that's probably going to grow a little bit. Ourselves, we are a bunch of guys from traditional finance tapping into the market, starting 4 or 5 years ago with a hedge fund, Cayman funds, with different trading strategies around Bitcoin and Ether. With time, I think it's time that makes it. The more time you spend in Bitcoin, you start to get more bullish. So that's what happened to me probably 1 year ago with the president election and BlackRock. So I think that's spreading as well. We were more actually into trading the volatility, but now we start to get more like Bitcoin maxis, and it's fun, and I think it's going to spread more. So now we wanted to start this operational company with Bitcoin as a part of our balance sheet, and we will develop all the products and services around the Bitcoin whole ecosystem. So that differs a little bit from Christopher and also from Sandra and Stig, that has operational that differs from Bitcoin by health and by being a stock exchange or a crypto exchange. Yeah.
But you will then develop financial products around Bitcoin. It won't be a hotel that you are planning.
No hotel, but maybe payment solutions, and of course be in the space and collaborate with all others. We all know each other in the Scandi area, and we talk to each other. And I think maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see some action around that.
Okay, some type of cooperation or collaboration.
Yeah, that's already in place, but maybe tighter than that. Yeah.
Okay. Then we can also welcome you, Sander, from Switzerland, but you're a Norwegian, and welcome, Sander.
Thank you, Morten.
And we are sort of having two agendas with you now, because you are the CEO of FinPairs and you are also the CEO of H100, which is a company noted in Sweden. But if we start with FinPairs, you started out with private equity for 2 or 3 years ago, and you wanted to democratize it, and so you also started to search and build connection with, for instance, family offices. So, but when did this Bitcoin thing come into this equation, and how do you think of these two topics together, private equity and Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think working with family offices made us realize that it's very, very hard to beat the performance of Bitcoin in general. So you should play along with Bitcoin, and therefore we've started to look into how you can create more financial products where you combine Bitcoin with the real economy, and that was of course accelerated by the investment from Fulgur Ventures that helped us coming very close to the global Bitcoin community, and we saw the opportunity to combine what we have learned from private equity with Bitcoin, and that's where Bitcoin equity came up, where we combined a strong Bitcoin balance sheet to use on top of cash flow generating equity.
And related to FinPairs, your plan is not to go on stock exchanges, neither yourself nor the companies that you are working together with. You are then talking about utilizing the tokenization legal structure that are in Switzerland, that are ahead of most other countries. And what kind of investment opportunities can that give to investors then?
No, so we look at multiple different ways here. We see, first of all, now the Bitcoin treasury strategies. We see more and more Bitcoin equity strategies where you combine Bitcoin with the real world assets, like real estate. I'm quite a fan of doing and seeing more of that, because you can ride the wave of Bitcoin, and it's also, as Torbjörn mentioned earlier, this is a fantastic collateral, and I think it's just a matter of time before we see more private credit structures around Bitcoin where you can actually have a longer duration on the loan to actually not having the risk of liquidation, short-term liquidation. But if you package Bitcoin combined with another asset, I'm very confident that more and more lenders will go into that space and give you more predictable capital over time to actually acquire more of the real world and beat the performance of private equity has done historically.
And then we also have to hear some words from you also about H100. What kind of company is that? Because that's not an investment company in itself. It's an operational health tech company, as I understand. But please give me your words on it.
I think that the last halving in Bitcoin is 2140, and I think most Bitcoiner wants to be alive to see that halving, and so that's why we combined longevity, which is basically a preventive health technology company, with a strong Bitcoin balance sheet, and we see a lot of similarities with those that are identify themselves as self-reliant, self-custodian. They want to take care of their health as well. So the overlap between the Bitcoiners and those that want to take care of their health, we can actually use the marketing from the Bitcoin to target our audiences, where we build a parallel health system. And since it's technology, and with AI, it's cheaper to build now than just a couple of years ago, and the margins are quite attractive, we believe over time that we can increase Bitcoin per share, not only by raising capital at the premium, but also cash flow going forward. But for us, this is a long-term play. I started H100 because I saw very few examples of strategy and Metaplanet in Europe. But now we have the blockchain group, raised over 1,000 Bitcoin. And we are super happy to be advised by Adam Back, which has supported us in all our rounds. And today we also announced another tranche system where we can raise up to 277 million Swedish krona, where Adam guaranteed the first round, first tranche. So yeah, that's what we do in H100. I think we're all here to see the last halving in 2140, and that's what we built for.
And then we will also talk to you, Stig, the CEO of NBX, and it was just the other day that you launched your Bitcoin treasury strategy. And what is that in your opinion?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So first of all, I think like us launching this or going public with us having kind of a Bitcoin treasury strategies is, first of all, it's a kind of confirmation on the belief of the industry that we have been part of for a long time, and also that obviously we believe that Bitcoin is definitely going to be around for the next 100 years. But well, I would say MBX has a more active Bitcoin treasury strategy than other companies, or you can basically you can define kind of Bitcoin treasury strategy as kind of active, where you focus on optimizing using the treasury to monetize or make more profits on it, or you can be more of a passive, where you have a strategy of just kind of acquiring Bitcoin. The reason why we did it now was it was a good timing to do it actually for where MBX are today. So we have, and that is basically because now we can monetize on it more than just sitting back and watching the balance sheet grow as Bitcoin appreciates it. So how we're utilizing our Bitcoin treasury is that we will use it to collateral and then lend US dollars. And the reason why we want to use Bitcoin is because that first of all, it will, and we all expect it to be to increase in value over time, meaning that we can use it as collateral to lend dollars. And the dollars that we will lend, we will actually put into work in our own ecosystem, where we are a stablecoin issuer of USDM, meaning that we can actually utilize both sides. We can get yield on the kind of blockchain activities, while we also get yield from the financial institutions where we hold the dollars. And as we expect Bitcoin to increase in value, we will be able to loan more and put more working capital into the ecosystem without necessarily taking more risk. And of course, we can adjust it down when Bitcoin goes down. So we can actually do this quite safe and without having, for instance, exposure to Norwegian kroners against dollars, which we could have been if we were, for instance, loaning in Norwegian kroners. So that's kind of right now, that was the lowest hanging fruit for us. And we will use the yield, of course, to also acquire more Bitcoin and then have the treasury also grow, which means then again that we can put more into place and we can expand our ecosystem or we can expand the working capital into other ecosystems as well.
You guys also have an exclusive agreement supporting stablecoins on Cardano in Europe. And
Yep.
How do you view the connection between Bitcoin and Cardano? Are you running both shows, or how does this work?
Well, so even though we're kind of having a Bitcoin treasury now, doesn't mean that we are kind of dropping or disregarding all kind of other crypto ecosystems. I think stablecoins will definitely be an extremely important part of kind of blockchain technology going forward. What we see is that the similarities between Cardano and Bitcoin, with being actually built on the same kind of UXO the technology, means that it's actually shorter to kind of have the technologies working together. It is project on Cardano working on, for instance, bridging the stable coins over to the Bitcoin blockchain. So it's definitely, I think you'll see kind of more ecosystems kind of growing into each other. But Bitcoin will definitely be there and will be will have a very significant role as a treasury, as a store of value, and also a way to move funds fast.
Okay, so you guys, you have sort of different concepts going into this strategy, but do you see yourself as competitors, or do you see yourself as friends? What about you, Alexander? You talked about the collaboration and cooperation, so you maybe already have some thoughts about that.
No, I don't see us as competitors, because we basically, Bitcoin is for everyone. Everyone, it's like if you're doing dollar, everyone doing dollar is a competitor. I don't see it like that. So, for instance, Stig and I, we have done business together for 3-4 years. Same with Torbjörn in K33. He's actually in our advisory board. I'm in the advisory board with Arvid in Greenmark. So big happy family so far.
How do you think about this, Christopher?
I think that's true. I mean, it's a bit like you can divide Bitcoin into an infinite in the currently 100 million, and then you can expand that. So Bitcoin can just grow infinitely, and the more the merrier. Just everybody will become. It's the only natural financial system that we have that everybody can use, and that will lead to that everybody will use it. And you don't call a company that has dollars on the balance sheet a dollar company. That's not what it's doing. It's just a company and it has dollars, and this is a bit the same. I think Bitcoin will be the baseline for all companies, all countries, and all people over time, because it's just a much more robust and good financial system, and therefore there's no, as Alexander said, it's very strange to compete over dollars. We're not doing that. The more the merrier. Everybody should just buy Bitcoin. That's the end goal, I think.
But still, maybe you will be sort of a competitor in the stock market. At least you are going to the stock market to try to allocate capital, and then you have to have a story. And what is unique then with your company, Christopher? What is your way of creating value in this market?
One funny note about the competitor thing, like investors, I've talked to a lot of investors today because we've had a huge interest in this type of venture, and some people are saying like, okay, when are you listing? Because I know another company that's listing a bit later, so then I can jump on this, and then the premium, then I'm gonna premium jump. So there's a new type of trader now that's a premium jumper, So that's going to come as well. So I guess in a sense we're competing for the premium jumpers, but I don't think that's of interest. What I think we will do, and what I think is important, is just, in my case, I want to build an absurdly robust Bitcoin treasury company that doesn't have to trust. There's no trust in it. There's just verification and correct processes. And what we're doing that's important is how we get from Swedish krona to Bitcoin or euro to Bitcoin, and how the Bitcoin are stored. How it's, I mean, I have no access to bank accounts. I'm the CEO, so of course I don't have access to the Bitcoins. That's what you're building. And what's setting us apart, I think, is the extreme paranoia and careful consideration when it comes to Bitcoin, because I'm very, like, personally, I've never, your options as a private individual is to keep your Bitcoins in cold storage or lend them out to FTX, get 4% and get hacked. That's the only two options you have. And I don't like that. Like, I want Bitcoin should be in cold storage, and that's what you're supposed to do with it. You shouldn't do anything else. And then finally, we have an alternative where you can generate yield because what's traded is the share and the spread between the share and the Bitcoins. You don't trade the Bitcoins. It's too valuable. It's too important. You can't just send that around. That I think is what's setting us apart, that we're not going to be the most risk-taking for sure. I'm a very careful individual when it comes to Bitcoin, and just it's since it's almost like it is my religion. It's too important. You can't. That's what you're supposed to do with it. So I think that's what's setting us apart. It's very much pure Bitcoin.
We are soon wrapping up this panel discussion, but I would like to have one question for you guys. And Michael Saylor, he says that he will think that in not that long far ahead, there will be 700 or 800 Bitcoin treasury companies on a global basis. And what do you think are the future on a Nordic basis then? Start with you, Sander. What do you think? Where are we in 2026?
We are all happy shareholder of Bitcoin Corporation. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. You own Bitcoin, and the more people that buy Bitcoin, it benefits everyone. That's what's fantastic with Bitcoin in general. It's no printer that benefits those that are closest to the printer. So for me, I'm super happy to build for the Bitcoiners. I want to see more applications for Bitcoiners. And therefore, I also think that Bitcoin treasury companies in the Nordics should aim to raise as much Bitcoin as we can, because when you park Bitcoin in a publicly traded company, it's actually stabilized the whole chain. It's just good that we see more and more companies that allocate part or their whole balance sheet into Bitcoin. So we have a very important role in the Nordics now to stay relevant. We know what Michael Saylor is doing. We know what the blockchain group is doing. So for us, it's just go out there and raise as much capital as possible and ensure that we use the printing fiat to buy the fixed cap Bitcoin.
What about you, Stig? I heard that you also have been contacted by investors from all over the world after you went out with your launch. Is Nordic ahead in Europe?
I don't know if we are ahead, but what I see is that just the interest that our little announcement made, and the kind of the how viral that news article have gone kind of around actually around the globe, and how many gigantic institutions that has contacted us the last 36 hours. Obviously, it's like there's so much money out there waiting to just be put into these into companies that have Bitcoin treasury. That 700-800, if that's what Michael said, you can add a zero on that. That's so, yeah.
Okay, I will just finish, but one last question for you, Alexander. Are you on track regarding your plans to go on Oslo Stock Exchange?
Listing in August. Best
In August.
estimate. Yeah.
Okay. And BTC in June, as I heard. And Sander, you already have a listed company in Sweden. And you do that in Norway, Stig. So good luck with all you guys, and then we'll continue with the next topic. We will then dig into other types of investment in Bitcoin, and which you could phrase as investment products as a headline. And we will then welcome Madeleine Bjørnstad Rød from StackXMe. We will also have Gule Gislason from Visca Digital Asset. And we will have Maximilian Mikkelsen from 21 Shares. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we could start with you, Max, because you represent 21 Shares, and you were part of this wave 1.5 years ago. I think you have businesses both in Europe and in the States, and even ETPs, which is called in Europe, has been there for many years. But what happened really last year when BlackRock and all the other ones went into the market where Bitcoin were wrapped into ETFs? Please explain that for us. We don't hear you, Max.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry about that. Had no problems before, but anyways, pleasure to be here. And yeah, the big topic, of course, was the approval of the kind of spot Bitcoin ETFs over in the US, and this was really, in our view, a watershed moment for both traditional investors and also the kind of broader crypto ecosystem. It was for the first time that US-based investors, both retail or institutions, now have this kind of regulated, familiar and secure access to Bitcoin. And the important thing is that this was through kind of vehicles that they already trust and that they already understand. And this, was met also, the demand, it was met with kind of unprecedented and very historic demand. And by every absolute metric, the spot Bitcoin ETFs actually became one of the most successful launches in history. I think just to put it into perspective, as of the end of last month, the US spot Bitcoin ETFs had accumulated around 130 billion in total assets, with over 40 billion in new asset inflows. Just to put it into perspective, I think it's interesting to compare to gold as well, which had been around for nearly 2 decades. And since then, the Bitcoin ETFs have captured already nearly 2/3 of the total flows into US gold ETFs. So that's quite impressive. And I think that illustrates 2 important things. The first, that there's massive pent-up demand for regulated digital asset exposure. And the second, that this launch really was a catalyst for mainstream adoption. Because, of course, this all happened in the US as well, the world's kind of largest capital market. The media attention and the focus that it brought about created quite a ripple effect. And now this is what we're seeing. And it's not just about kind of capital inflows, but just the fact that, this is legitimizing the asset class and really embedding it into the future of kind of modern portfolios.
Together with the Nordic Blockchain Association and K33, which is really do the research, we have also something which is called Crypto Adoption Week. And the results from the survey that K33 have found is that Swedes are investing in ETFs, and one other country, in Norway, more or less none, at least regarding crypto or Bitcoin. But you guys and also your competitors have some Swedish heritage or knowledge about the market. But how do you explain the differences in the Nordic countries, and how is the Nordic countries as a whole compared to Europe?
Sure, happy to touch upon that as well. And I think you talked about this in the beginning as well. While we did have the spot ETF launch in the US just last year, Over in Europe, these products have already existed since 2018. Physically backed ETPs have been around for 7 years. So while the US had its own impact, in Europe we've had this already be the case for quite some time. While they haven't accumulated assets at the same level of scale, I think in Europe they have around 14 billion in assets. It's still quite a significant kind of level of adoption, considering the capital available here in Europe. And on top of that, I think particularly what we're seeing in the Nordics is that it's quite a retail-driven market. Of course, with listings in the Nasdaq OMX, they're actually trading quite nicely, and they've actually had over the last month more in dollar volume than some of the bigger exchanges like Euronext Amsterdam. So there's about, I think, 4 million traded on a daily basis over in the Nasdaq Stockholm exchange. So in terms of kind of appetite, I would say it's definitely there, but it's definitely a lot more retail driven as well.
Then to you, Gulli and Visca Digital Assets, you are an Icelandic company, but you are not working only in Iceland. You are also reaching investors in Europe. And you launched an investment fund in 2022. And tell us something about that story and what role Bitcoin is playing in that fund.
Yeah, thank you, Morten, and thanks for having me here. Like you mentioned, we launched the first crypto-focused fund in Iceland 3 years ago. And the story behind that is could be put in a way that we and me and our founding partners have been watching the macro environment for almost 2 decades now. And we kind of felt more and more that the certain parts of the markets were less excited than the other, and we have been worried about the current state of things for a while. And when we got introduced to Bitcoin and went down the rabbit hole like 5-6 years ago, we really thought that this is an asset class that should have a spot at the table on the global investment scene. Although looking at it now, it was quite early, but since then many things have happened that have helped us in the journey, and the launch of the Bitcoin ETF is a major milestone, like Max was describing and you have been discussing today. But like I mentioned, this was the first crypto-focused fund in Iceland, and I think Iceland is in a similar path as the Nordics. I'm not sure that they're like leading in the world or leading in Europe, but they're getting on track. And we have been focusing a lot of educating people about the market, the cryptocurrency market, about Bitcoin especially. Has been like the leader and still has hold its relevance. So currently we have over 70 LPs in the fund, and we are quite happy with the state of things, because when we started, we were kind of urging people to spend the classic 100 hours to get to know Bitcoin, to understand it. But now it helps a lot to have the kind of institutional stamp of the Bitcoin products by having it on standard ETPs like the ETFs, and now we have that in many parts of the world. And like Max was talking about, the success of the Bitcoin ETFs in the US has been phenomenal, and really helps people open their minds to the crypto space and to Bitcoin. So that definitely helped us a lot. So yeah, I think we are quite happy about where things are, and we currently operate 2 funds, one the original fund in Iceland, and now we have another fund based for the abroad for global investors.
So when you're talking about the ETF, you're talking about the psychology in the market, because you're not working on ETFs or ETPs in principle yourself. Is it in a hedge fund that you are doing, or how do you define it? And is it mainly wealth management clients that are your clients?
Yeah, I mean, we run an alternative investment fund, and we have license here in Iceland, but we can't passport it to Europe technically. But we are mainly be focused on the Icelandic investors for the first fund. And yeah, it's correct. We mostly invest directly in cryptocurrencies hence the name. But the emergence of the ETFs has also helped us in an operational way, and we hold some IPID because we use that as a collateral for hedging, like FX hedging, so that we use in our fund. So this product has like, you know, a list of opportunities that like increase our possibilities or managing our fund or managing risk, because now you have like a standardized product which is more familiar with the banks that we are also working with. So we use it, but it's not the majority of our assets.
Okay, then we will talk to you, Madeleine. Really great to have you here in this conversation, and let's hear the story about StackXme, independent of crypto, independent of Bitcoin first. What is your mission?
So StackXme, we launched an investment app, a social one, to get more people to invest, especially women, right? So we researched what do women want and need to get started investing. And the first thing that came up was they feel like they would need more knowledge. And, you know, it's very overwhelming today, right? If you Google how to invest, there's like a billion hits on YouTube and you don't know what to trust, right? And these forums, they tell you this and that. So we decided we should have an in-app academy with short bite-sized courses, interactiveness, making it, you know, more like social media, but a source you can trust. The second thing was when we asked how people got started investing, it was, you know, in 95% of the cases through getting help from a friend. However, 6 out of 10 women say they would rather talk about their own death than money. It makes it much harder for women to get that help, right? Because it's very uncomfortable to ask for help when it comes to topic of money, right? And investing is money. So we made a social network where you can find your friends and you can just see what they're invested in, you know, and then it's easier to also bring up the conversation if you find them there, right? You can just say, oh, I saw you bought that fund. Is that a good one? Yeah, so that was kind of the start. And then we've built from there on. And now we found out that people think crypto is fun. I have a girlfriend who said that she wakes up, you know, if she can't sleep after going out on a Saturday clubbing, so a Sunday morning, she'll go and check her crypto because it's always open and that's really fun.
Yeah, and the fund that you are talking about is what you call a mutual fund or a saving app. I don't know what maybe the right framing of it. You have to, but then you are going into crypto and Bitcoin. Isn't that a leap regarding risk and regarding knowledge, regarding other types of things that you have to think about? You KYC. Whatever, and you have a cooperation with K33 that is maybe important to say. So then some of their technology will perhaps be a part of your solution. We don't know yet the solution, but still, is this a risky bet?
So first of all, we have to do KYC today on the mutual funds and ETF business that we have. We don't have ETPs because our provider of funds, all funds, they think ETPs are too risky. So we can't offer that today. We've tried to get crypto in the app from day one because we know retail investors, they seek it, right? So if they seek it, I think it's better that they do it through the Stack app where we have an academy where they can learn about the risk. So we've already made a course on investing into crypto with Torbjørn from K33. And then we agreed on doing a closed loop setup. So you're only there for the investing, right? You're not there to transfer money to Iran, right? So I know, you know, the international platforms, it's freely tradable. You can send it to wherever. And that's really, really hard to manage as a regulated entity, right? So in Stack, you will only be able to buy crypto from a Norwegian bank account to start with, and you can only take out money to a Norwegian bank account. So it's a closed loop, and which makes KYC a lot easier. And also when it comes to business onboarding with Stack, we do a manual approval of all businesses. And so most of our customers are individuals. And for individuals, the risk of laundering money is quite low. People typically do it through a holding company.
How far have you come? Because I think you have to do some both knowledge and tech work here. But when will we see crypto in the app?
Oh, I hope by August.
Okay.
It's a fairly easy setup, right? Since it's closed loop and we already do KYC. I mean, it's not like we're coming out of nowhere to just provide crypto. The thought when we launched Stack was always to have all of your digital investments in your Stack, because one of the ways of making investing more accessible and available to younger people and to more people is to make it more relevant, right? And to be more relevant, it needs to be cooler and less boring and all that, right? So we came into crypto in the crypto space through NFTs, because in 2021 when we launched Stack, NFTs had like a big hype, and my co-founder was like buying NFTs, and I tried, but I failed because of all these wallets and everything, which didn't work very well at the time. It was always like Chrome rejected the plugin or whatever, so I didn't manage. And we were like, we have to make this easier as well. How cool isn't it if on your profile, which in Stack is public, right, where you can see your mutual funds and ETFs today, if you could also see your crypto and your NFT and your we can even add there's a company you can connect to, which is the same we're doing with the K33, right? We're just connecting to their APIs and they're doing all of the backend stuff. And you could see as well collectibles. You can buy like vintage Nike shoes and you can have that in your Stack. So all of your digital investments is sort of our long-term ambition. And then we started out with mutual funds because it's, it should be the solid foundation of anybody's stack, as we call it, your portfolio. And then we're adding stocks. And then incidentally, one of our devs, he came from K33. And this opportunity to add crypto quite easily came up. And so it looks like it's going to be crypto before stocks, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
But in the end, you will then offer both funds and stocks and crypto and vintage, as I heard.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. Okay, so it can be different kinds of investment in the same app. Mm-hmm. That is sort of the USP. But what do you guys think about? We have to wrap up now. But now the landscape is sort of growing, and of course we have the regulation also with MiCA that makes things also a little easier. But will the next story be more about how I want to have exposure for Bitcoin, whether it is in a saving app or in an ETF or an investment fund? Is that part of the conversation that you are starting to have, Gurli, or how is that?
Yeah, definitely. And a great step towards that is BlackRock acknowledging that Bitcoin has a large role in a global portfolio. They put it in their like model portfolio, which is like a benchmark portfolio, and in a global allocation fund as well. So you could really say that investors who do not have at least 1% in Bitcoin are in fact underweight crypto. So it's a giant step. And also a second point is the ETFs and the Bitcoin treasury companies actually bought almost 4 times the amount that was created for Bitcoin last year, which is amazing. And now you're seeing more and more of these treasury companies coming with their own strategies. So I think everyone is just scrambling for coins, and this is just increasing the international interest in Bitcoin and crypto in general.
So at the center is Bitcoin, even if the wrapping is different. So that is the main investment case, isn't it?
Yeah, they all buy Bitcoin in the end. Either it's the wrapper or all these ETPs.
Okay. Thank you very much, then, Madeleine and Maximilian and Gurli. Again, we could talk about this in half an hour or 3 quarters, but we will follow you guys also. And good luck with your launch, Madeleine, in August.
Thank you.
And also, Viska, as I understand that you are on a roadshow, sort of, on your investment fund. And we will also look into more insights from you guys in 21 shares. So thank you very much for this panel discussion. We will now dig into a couple of one-to-one conversations. We will start with Simon Osager from Januar in Sweden. In Denmark. Sorry about that, Simon. Welcome.
We're just in Copenhagen, so we're pretty close.
Yes, and you are not a crypto exchange. You are not a crypto broker. You have found another niche that you would want to solve the problems for companies, and it is crypto companies mainly. What is the problem here, and what is your solution?
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Technically, we are also a crypto broker, but that's
Okay.
not our primary business. So at Genoa, we set out to solve what you can call the banking problem. So when Genoa was founded about 4 years ago, there was still a massive issue with getting access to banking and payment accounts around Europe. We still see that being a huge problem, for instance, Sweden and the rest of Europe. So we set out to get a payment institution license so that we can go out and provide the accounts for crypto businesses predominantly. So that means that right now we have a lot of companies on our platform that are retail brokers, investment firms, companies that are in one way or another trading with crypto, and they need to do third-party payments. So for instance, their clients can buy crypto off them, and to do that, they need to be able to send them euros or Danish crowns or dollars, which is the currencies that we support now.
And then it means that you can then send and receive money on behalf of the client, both on fiat and on crypto. Is that the case?
Exactly. So it basically allows the on and off ramping, right? So we're business to business. We make sure that crypto brokers, smaller or larger, they can actually move their euros in and out. And then, as I mentioned, we also do have an institutional broker, so they can actually trade those euros into Bitcoin or Ether or stablecoins. Stablecoins being the most popular asset on our platform. And
that is the one of the talking points at the moment. In addition to Bitcoin, it is the growth of stablecoins. So, how do you view stablecoins first, compared to the old-fashioned payment rails, if we could call them that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at Genoa, our focus has always been the payments. So not treasury companies or necessarily custody, although we can't do that. But we see payments being super, super important, not just to the crypto industry, but also to all other industries. And we can see right now that our user base are slowly starting to move from being just crypto companies that need traditional payment rails to being traditional companies that need to access crypto payment rails, with those predominantly being stablecoins right now. I think stablecoins is going to be super, super important for the future of payments. We just supported Euro C today, just launched that, because we believe that the e-money tokens and stablecoins will be super important. But if you have to look at it from a Bitcoin perspective, I think stablecoins also has some weaknesses. And we saw that with MiCA recently. We now have regulation in Europe, which essentially pushed out Tether, the most popular stablecoin, or they decided to leave. We can discuss which one it was, right? And to give a little bit of brief history on why I think we need neutral money for payments, is that if you go back and look at the Facebook Libra project, right? They wanted to make their own money for payments because they wanted more frictionless payments amongst their users. They saw that as an opportunity. And I remember I was working at Chainalysis at the time, and one of my colleagues there was having the dialogue with the Facebook team at that time, and I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, like for various reasons, right? And it ended up not happening because it's really, really difficult to build these systems from within the system. And the Facebook team shut down the project. Europe essentially started making MiCA very, very quickly thereafter, because they saw how, I don't want to say easy, but just that there was the opportunity for private companies to go in and start offering money that could get very, very far into the European Union without much regulation, right? So MiCA came as a consequence of that. Now, what the Facebook team did is they went out and started a new company called Lightspark, which is built on the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And kind of their reasoning was, if you want to build global payments, you need to have global money. And it's a very smart team. And they don't necessarily think this will happen on stablecoins. So I also think that you need Bitcoin because that's the neutral platform for payments. We're seeing massive development in stablecoin payment coordination right now. But I think as a backup, you still need the Bitcoin rails because stablecoins aren't neutral. We don't know which jurisdictions that will accept USDC, EuroC, USDT in the future. But we're also seeing that Bitcoin are emerging as a more traditional, a more neutral type of digital asset. So where you might see fragmentation and localization within stablecoins, I think the Bitcoin payment rails and networks will lean more neutral and potentially create more global adoption, which is also why we are happy to announce that we'll be supporting Lightning from next week, because we find that super, super important.
Yes, because the issue is that to do it natively on Bitcoin, that's not recommended because it doesn't work totally. So then you have the Lightning, which is sort of a layer 2, could you say that? And then you have service providers like Lightstark or someone else then creating services on top of Lightning again. And what is it that you are launching next week?
Yeah, good question. So right now we're seeing a lot of payment networks being built. Circle just announced their own Circle payment network a month ago. Bridge was acquired by Stripe for $1 billion. Borderless is really huge. What they do is they coordinate stablecoin payments, so KYC and all that stuff is handled by those networks, and then you pay with the stablecoins. Lightspark is doing the same, but for Bitcoin, using the Lightning network. So they're the network for that. What we'll be supporting from next week is traditional Lightning integration, which means that our customers can send and receive Lightning payments in and out of Yanua. And then down the line, it's very likely that we'll be also working with companies like Lightspark to do more orchestrated payments using the Lightning network.
Okay, then. So thank you very much, then, Simon. So then Bitcoin is starting to be a payment opportunity in several areas, and we will continue also with that on the next session. So we thank you, Simon, for your contribution, and we will now invite Axel Øvern to the stage. And Axel, he is CEO and project manager in Snøkam, which is an IT consulting company. Welcome, Axel.
Thank you, Morten. Great to be here.
And you guys have done something that I haven't heard of anybody else, at least in Norway, that have done it. You are giving your employees the possibility to take out parts of their salary in Bitcoin. And please explain, how does this work?
Yeah, so to start off with that explanation, I'll just remind everyone like who we are. So as you said, we're an IT consulting company. So we're delivering software to our clients. And all the way from the beginning with Snøkam, we had the vision of trying to build the company the same way that you're building software, kind of from the bottom up with first principles in mind. And one of the things we started looking at then was the payments and the salary situation in Norwegian companies. And we saw that almost all Norwegian companies, they pay salary once per month. And we started investigating, why is that? Why is it so that you only need to pay your employees once per month? And we saw that actually in the Norwegian Work-in Environment Act, or Arbeidsmiljøloven in Norwegian, it actually says that you're supposed to pay your employees twice per month. But if you have a specific agreement with your employees, you can avoid that regulation. So we sat down then and said, why is it so that so many Norwegian companies have this special agreement where they are paying employees once per month? And who is actually benefiting from this system? And when we kind of dug into the details a bit, we saw that we think it's the companies that benefit the most from this arrangement, in that it's most companies today in Norway, they're still doing payroll quite manually. It's someone actually doing the payroll within the company. So it's simpler, it's cheaper, it's less work required actually doing this once per month. And it saves the company a whole lot of money. But for the employee, it's kind of like a bad arrangement, right? And it's two main reasons for this. The first one is that, as you know, Morten, money today is not the same as money in 1 month, especially these last couple of years with rampant inflation. It could be as much as 1% less if you get paid in 1 month. And the second thing is that 1 month of personal investment in yourself or in stocks or in bonds or in Bitcoin, that could be quite a lot of money. So we took a look at what could we do with this as a company. And we landed on that we as a company, Snökam as a company, don't want to kind of like benefit from holding employee salaries. And we were kind of in a good position from the beginning because we had already an internal system which we had developed for automating all salary payments within the company. And we then had the APIs from our accounting system, and the only thing we needed to do was to update the payment frequency to be once per month, or from once per month to once per day. But when we started doing this, we saw that we ran into some problems. And the biggest one was that since we are doing or had the traditional banking system, our CFO within the company, he needed to go in once per month and sign with Bank ID to be able to do the automated payroll service. And that was not very scalable when we switched to doing daily payments. We couldn't have it so that our CFO was having to sign in every day to do the Bank ID signing before running the payments. So we started looking at other ways of doing transactions, and then of course landed on Bitcoin as a good tool for supporting our needs.
And then, as I understand it, you have set up with Bitcoin through a global crypto exchange, or do you use any local partners on that?
No, so the Bitcoin is bought and transferred using the Coinbase platform and the Coinbase APIs. I heard some other people talking about their APIs as well. So we're looking at maybe using a Norwegian exchange in the future. But when we started this development, it wasn't really any good solutions for this with any Norwegian providers. And we have also built an internal system inside of Snökam and a Snökam app, which allows you to, and that's one of the things we did, was kind of make the employees decide for themselves if they wanted to get paid in Bitcoin or not. So we have developed our own system and our own app where they can kind of toggle on the functionality of getting paid in Bitcoin. And they can also, we have a slider where they can select from 0 to 100% how much of their salary they want to be paid daily in Bitcoin. So this makes it so that it's easier for the employees as well to kind of vote in or vote out of the solution.
And what is the status right now? I think you have done this for a half a year or maybe even more. And how many people are part of the system, and how much of their salary do they want to take out in this way?
So now we are 14 employees at Snökam, and 8 of the employees have selected to get paid in Bitcoin as of today. And the average is somewhere below 20% of their salary is being paid in Bitcoin. And we see that now as well, that with the current payment structure, most employees are using this as kind of like a way of saving or stacking Bitcoin. So it's not so that they're spending a lot of it. It's more like almost like a stock program for the employees.
What do you think is the killer app in this solution? Is it the daily payments, or is it the Bitcoin part?
It's a good question. So in Snökam, it's so that we have like a commission-based salary model where the employees get 60 to 70% of what they bill our clients. So the salary for the employees can vary quite a bit based on the day and how much they work and which client they work for. So I would say that it's a benefit for them to be able to choose themselves if they want to get that salary back the same day, or if they want to wait until the end of the month before they receive the salary. So the daily part I think it's a big advantage. And of course, the Bitcoin part, it wasn't so that all employees at Snöcam knew about the Bitcoin ecosystem and kind of what this technology provides. So that's been kind of like a learning curve and transition as well. We are software developers and technologists, so it's good for us to kind of be on the forefront as well of new technologies and the possibilities that they enable.
Thank you very much, then, Axel. Then we have another use case. We had the payment, also in global payments, and now we have salaries as a use case for using Bitcoins. And thank you very much, Axel. We will then go on to the next session in this live event, and then we will introduce a panel again with the 4 people from the different Nordic scenes in Bitcoin and in blockchain. So we will welcome Jakob from Nordic Blockchain Association, Håkon from Bitcoin Political Institute in Norway, Remu from BTC Hell from Finland, and Ebba Theding from Bitcoin Blockchain Sweden, also CEO for Plus Venture. Welcome everybody, and maybe we could start there because 2 of you guys have Bitcoin in the naming and the mission, and 2 of you guys have blockchain in the naming and the mission. And let's hear what you think about each mission. Let's start with you, Jakob.
Thank you very much, Morten, and good to be here. I think like overall in regards of the wording, I think for us when we started out 8+ years ago, we wanted to basically talk to the broader audience. So for us, being a little bit more agnostic in our wording was extremely important. So what we do at Nordic Blockchain Associations is we try to, of course, unite the ecosystem, but as well really try to engage with the rest of the broader audience. And for this panel as well, like really trying to be engaged with public elected. So in regard of wording, and then what we've done in Denmark is more, we talk generic about the technology. We talked about how blockchain, Bitcoin, and all these is part of a larger scheme in the region. It's a tech sector. It's part of creating jobs, retaining jobs, retaining and creating companies and capital in general. So what we try to do is educate on it. We do it with a lot of monthly meetups. I think in May we had 7 meetups around the region, and we got a large conference coming up in Stockholm, the 18th and 19th. So we really try to unite, but as well we have these working groups where we are very actively working to kind of change the broader opinion towards blockchain in general, but of course Bitcoin as well.
Is it the same thinking on your behalf, Ebba? In Sweden, you launched Blockchain Sweden last November, December or something, and you have 10 or maybe 15 members now. What was your thinking about why the need for an organization and what should the focus and mission be?
A really relevant question. And also, I must say, we are also part of the Nordic Blockchain Association. It's a whole ecosystem, right? We're depending on each other. It's not either or. However, there are certain things that are related to the jurisdiction you operate in. And as all of us in this industry locally knows, we have our own flavor of complications and hurdles to overcome. So this is a complement where we can actually be more hands-on, focus on educating local authorities, local regulators and industry. So and that's also interesting because I have, obviously 2 hats on me today. One is the Blockchain Sweden, where we try to help and bootstrap and support the local industry. And then also I have my hat as an entrepreneur in this industry, trying also to sort of level this conversation. It's not just problems. There's massive opportunities. So I want to bring this to the table in this conversation, not just issues that we're struggling to do. We're also seeing a massive opportunities, and this goes for the rest, all of Nordics, I think.
Let's continue with you then, Håkon. Bitcoin Politisk Institute, or in English, Bitcoin Policy Institute. And you guys, you had the process before you had sort of a meeting in January, I think it was, where you founded the organization. And what was what did people think that should be created, and why do you guys need this organization?
Yeah, so as the name suggests, we are a bit more narrowly focused only on Bitcoin. Our mission is threefold. Firstly, we want to increase the public understanding of Bitcoin. Secondly, we want to contribute to a more informed and fact-based public debate. I could go more into detail about that later, but we don't think the public debate is any good. And thirdly, we want to promote reasonable legislation that allows the room for the use of Bitcoin in Norway. Yes, I think that will be all I have to say in this time around.
Yeah, we can continue with you, Remi, and please also then explain what BTC Hell is, because it's not an organization as such, or is it, or are you supported by some organizations?
Hi. So BTC Hell is the largest Bitcoin conference in the Nordics. First time coming this August. It's a for-profit company I founded last August. We started to organize with 5 founders, and it's just we have like this event production team and company behind it, but BTC Hell is a brand of its own. We are a community-driven brand and an event. We have a physical community hub in the Helsinki city center where we provide facilities for anybody to have their own workshops, events, meetups. We provide some budget to them just to grow the community here in Helsinki, and we really believe that a grassroots approach, bottom up, is the way to go. So that's why we are focusing on the community aspect. We have a Bitcoin Association of Finland in Helsinki, which I am in board of, but it's a separate entity, and that entity focuses more on doing like a lobbying and informing the parliament and such. So these are separate entities. But yeah, we are focusing only on Bitcoin. We believe that distinction is clear, and there's many reasons to it. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned earlier in the email that it's clear that typically different regions have a different way on one of these distinctions, and I have noticed the same, that Norway and Finland the communities are much more leaning into focusing only on Bitcoin, and Denmark and Sweden seem to be more in the broader blockchain area.
It's a hypothesis at the moment. It hasn't been confirmed, maybe, but maybe you guys can help me with it. But if we talk a little more with you, Remi, because you have a very great lineup of speakers, and from all over the world, people that are known in the Bitcoin space, and as I understand, you also have rather large ambitions. And what is it with the Finnish country or the communities that makes Bitcoin that front and center?
Well, I think it goes far in our history that we have a lot of open source developers and focus in free and open software initiatives. Since Linux is from Finland, so we have a lot of like this nerdy culture already in Finland, and this was good ground to adapt Bitcoin early on. So we have like early Bitcoin developers, and we have a lot of contributors in Lightning Network and in Bitcoin development and in Bitcoin companies and such. So that I think that's one reason for it. And yeah, we have an active community. We have like one of the biggest groups. Bitcoin Finland has more than 700 people, active participants, and yeah, the community is just so active. We have an ongoing monthly Bitcoin meetup in Helsinki that goes way back to 2014, I think, or 2013 even. And yeah, we have a great lineup of speakers. We have a good network in Europe and in the whole world. So we managed to have contacts to all the best expertise in this field. And we have 15 partners already signed up. We have a space for 20. So we have still some space for more partners. And I noticed that there's a lot of great initiatives in the Nordics that I just got to know in this live stream. So for example, BTC.se, Bar Bitcoin, Ace Digital, H100, and also Snowcam. All of those Bitcoin focused companies and initiatives are something of our interest. We expect to see 1,000 attendees. Already we have sold at least 1/3 of the tickets, and typically to these events they sell out in the last month or 2 weeks. So we believe we are gonna reach that. We have active email lists, and I think we have reached the masses with our marketing in social media and in podcasts and in word of mouth. We have gone in all of the European conferences already talking about this, so it's really gaining momentum.
Okay, thank you, Remy. So it seems like this event also can build some connections behind the scene. That is nice to hear. Maybe something more from you, Håkon, because you have more than 100 members, I think, and you have organized the board, of course, and you are also then. So you have hired a general manager, and if you guys in Sweden and Finland and Denmark don't know it, they have hired Morten Søberg, which has been before a public affair, or he still is then because he hasn't started on his new job, but he has been a public affair guy in Sparebank 1, which is one of the largest Norwegian banks. And what is the impression or the meaning or the impact of getting a guy from TradFi joining you guys, Håkon? What do you think?
Yeah, so for the audience, just a reminder, BPI Norway, my organization, was just founded in January. Our focus up until now is to find someone to lead the organization, and Morten Søberg, as mentioned, has accepted the position. He's not only from TradFi. He's also from politics. Been the finance. Been in politics for a long time. Has a broad political network. He has previously served as the state secretary of the finance ministry for the finance minister, and also a PhD in economics, and is known as such. So to have this guy lead our organization is crucial. It gives us a lot of weight, both in the political and TradFi milieu. It's hard to ignore our voice with such a leader. So this is what we have been the focus since January, to find to build the foundation to start our work.
Thank you, Håkon. And just to be clear, when about what is Kaupir agenda, we have a broad view of these things, and we respect all the different positionings that different people and different communities want to have. And our mission is to reflect it, to share knowledge about it, and to give visibility, and then let the readers or viewers or whatever make the decision of what they want to support. But Remy said something about this reflection about the differences between the countries, and I was attending the Danish. You had a workshop in the Danish Folketinget maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, Jakob, and then you had a lot of use cases on the blockchain. It was not finance, it was not NFTs, it was not any type of financial-oriented focus. It was the industry, it was Maersk and other types of companies that was maybe having the most speaking time. And is that the focus in Denmark, or and have you gone into the industry more heavily than, for instance, in Norway? I don't know that many examples in Norway about companies using the blockchain.
No, but I think like if we take a step back, like Denmark, we started out quite heavy in Bitcoin in general, right? You had Jimmy with Bitcoin Talk Denmark. There's now 20,000 plus community, right? They started out 10 plus years ago, I think 13 years ago. We had Bitcoin Jack living out of Bitcoin back in was that 15? So I mean, we've really been heavy in Bitcoin early on, but then the political landscape just didn't facilitate opportunities for company to thrive and grow in the region. So a lot of them moved out. I mean, you had Bitcoin Switch, you had all these great Danish people actually creating something moved out. So I think that's what led us to basically say we need to paint a broader picture of the industry. They need to understand this is just not financial. They didn't really understand it initially. So we're really trying to talk about the agenda about blockchain is something that's good for society. It's good to have a strong tech sector. It's good to have a strong ecosystem that can basically just be part of the other public agendas, like attracting talent and stuff like that. So that's why we're really focusing on showcasing real companies. Like Maersk is a global player who basically went on stage at the parliament and said, blockchain is de facto something we're going to use. It's going to be fully implemented by 2030. Like a statement like that. Or I have Rune from MegaDAO and now Sky Money going in and say this is real back stablecoin for around $7 billion, right? So we really just want to have the discussion about this is a sector you need to focus on. And if you look into the beautiful data, Morten, that you have been part of creating as well, like with the survey, we now increased 50% of ownership in the Nordic region, in Denmark within the last year, right? And if you look into the numbers behind it, it's still the same amount of traders. So if you look at, it's 5% who owns more than, I think, 100,000, right? But you can see a lot of people actually starting using it indirectly, either in an investment product. So we really believe that if you want to do something, you need to talk about it in a lot broader sense. And we can see that works. So the Danish Parliament event was just part of something bigger. So in December, I was part of a roundtable with the Ministry of Tax and all public representative, where we basically talked about a shitty law that was proposed that basically got killed. And now we're part of a working group with the Ministry of Tax and relevant parties to create a new law that's basically facilitating digital assets and digital currency. So we really find it extremely helpful when you talk about more than just specific protocols or specific use cases. So we really want to advocate for that. And we think that's the way forward for the industry. Of course, we need to talk about Bitcoin. We need to talk about those specific things, but we can just see how things just drastically change from a public opinion when you start saying it's actually Maersk or it's Novo or it's larger companies' healthcare data, right? So that's kind of like the way we see it if we really want to change something on a larger scale and not just fight small battles.
And then we can talk to you about, because it seems like in Sweden there is sort of a uphill, I don't know, but one thing is that the adoption of crypto in Sweden didn't rise as much as in Finland and Denmark and Norway. And one possible solution of that could be the atmosphere or the legitimacy. And I think that even when Simon was talking about a non-banking problem, I think only one of the Swedish 11 founders companies had a Swedish bank. So and this doesn't reflect on our view about Sweden being an innovator and being up and front and center in creative industries and also in finance. So how is this, Ebba?
I think you're correct. And I must say also, Denmark has been really at the forefront. Sweden should have been too, because we have basically all the like digitalization maturity that we would be able to capitalize on this. But we do struggle with things that are related to being afraid of the technology. And afraid is in a way a relevant reaction, because this is a very potent technology. We know that it can do things, it can change things. It's a coordination and collaboration technology, as you know. And when you do that and you connect it with transferring value, of course, you get the application like sending money. So it is scary because it's challenging control and power and how you actually do business. But I think that's also what is the big opportunity here. So I think if you look at Sweden, we have this scare. We can't even mention the word Bitcoin or crypto, and even blockchain is a little bit taboo-ish to talk about because that scares those who are, governmental organizations and other like banks and the others. So that is a concrete problem. We're working on it, and that's also one of the reasons why we needed to have a local Swedish blockchain association to help us actually get this working in Sweden. And I think I want to tie back to why this is important too. I mean, this is, if you combine AI with blockchain, for instance, we are going to have presumably a massive next generation $1 trillion industry. I mean, that is what we're up for. It's an exponential growth of both these technologies, converging intelligence and collaboration, coordination. We have something that's massive. So I think what we have to do is to not just talk about the technology as such. We have to, as also Jacob said, talk about the applications. What does it mean for us, the industry? And how can we be on board for this train or this new wave of technology? So it's urgent, it's big, and we have to do it. It's critical. So I think this problem that we have in Sweden that is actually hindering innovation in the most growing field right now is something we have to deal with. And just meeting in a group like this, talking about how we're doing in different markets is helping us to overcome this. So I think joining with what Jacob said, we have to educate, we have to demonstrate, and we have to allow to innovate. That's what we want to do. So I think we have a big task in front of us doing that.
If we then, before we wrap up, let each of you guys have the word and tell the viewers about what you think is the main vehicles or tasks or activities that, or focus areas or whatever, that can improve the legitimacy and the adoption of whether you call it Bitcoin or blockchain or Web3, you can choose your own word. Can we start with you, Remi? It seems like you already are on track or something in Finland, but what can move this even faster?
Okay, so, well, you can approach this question from the two angles. One is how do you engage the community? How do you grow the community and go bottom up? And the second question is, which I hear more focusing on, is the top down. So how to influence like legislators, representatives, parliaments, business executives. So I think that in Europe, and especially in the Nordic countries, one uniting factor is we have an energy problem. So we don't have energy independence in Europe, and we want to fix it. It's whole European Union needs this fix, and Bitcoin mining can be really a solution to achieve energy independence, because Bitcoin miners provide reliable last-hand electricity buying for investing in renewable energy sources. So that can improve the European energy independence. The second thing is, especially in the Nordic countries, we are cold countries. We need heating all year round. So the Bitcoin miners, we actually can attract investment for all around the world in the Nordic countries, because these miners, they have an additional revenue source in the Nordic countries, because they can sell the wasted heat to district heating. So this is one reason why Finland is interesting place to grow this mining industry, especially, and that's why we have a lot of partners from all around the world, even from the US, coming to BTC Hell because they want to focus on mining here. That's the localization part. I would say we would need to talk more about Bitcoin mining to the energy industry leaders and legislators to have more adaptation in Nordic countries.
Let me just say that in Norway, Bitcoin mining has been an ongoing issue for a lot of politicians. And my question to you, Håkon, is that top of your agenda, or would you have other priorities in the beginning?
So you could say that that our parliamentary politicians, they came out and said that they want to ban Bitcoin mining was the start of this organization, but it's not necessarily such that this is our top priority. So now that we have our leadership in place, the next phase we're entering is to have a broad and inclusive process where we engage our members and key actors in the Bitcoin space to come up with a clear strategy to come up how do we reach our goals. So where should we direct our resources, which issues should we prioritize, and what kind of activities will be most effective. So we suspect we will have a better answer to your question in a couple of months than we do now. So to the viewers, I would say that if our mission resonates with you, and we will be happy to hear from you. So feel free to reach out and if you want to take part in what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Håkon. And then to you, Jakob, please do it short, but it's a new tax regulation. Is that the main hurdle or main point in Denmark, or what do you think?
I think to be honest, we don't need to spend time convincing people on the panel or people listening in, right? I think at the essence is we need to simplify things. Don't try to preach all these complicated solutions and just focus on simpler application layers so it's easy for people to understand. And that's the essence of the dialogue we are having in regards of the new law, saying it's not that complicated again, right? It's quite simple. It's a technology stack, right? So of course in Denmark, the new legislation would be something really important. But I mean, we've got our upcoming conference, the 18 and 19 in Stockholm, and we've already seen a lot of trade councils are going to join, right? Like trade council from a global perspective are joining the conference to understand what people are building, right? So I think it's more like the task ahead for us and the industry is let's try to simplify the messaging, and let's try everyone just to convince one or two people outside of the ecosystem, take the time to educate them so they understand it, that then we'll see a broader acceptance of the technology. So for me, it's just like, let's keep it simple, try to educate and try not to spend so much time on educating the ecosystem. They know it, but try to educate someone outside of the ecosystem and take the time to explain it in a simple manner. It is an extremely complicated technology. So let's keep it simple and try to meet up in person and do stuff like this. It's really helpful, Morten, when you're hosting stuff like this so we can educate.
What about you then, Ebba? How can you guys take the opportunities or show the opportunities that you think are there in the Swedish society?
Thank you for asking, Morten. I think, as Jakob said already, I mean, we already have the Nordic Blockchain Association's big conference in Stockholm together with Blockchain Sweden and also together with 4Plus. And one of the things, concrete things we can do if you want to do things is actually like the pitch competition we have for all those interesting projects that want to demonstrate what they're building. So I think that's one of the key critical things to do, actually show what is being built, how can you use the technology, what good does it do, how will we generate new generational technology. So if I would pick one thing that I think is the way forward is to just keep doing it and showing what you're doing, inspire, invite. And also I want to say something about diversity. If we're going to build the next generation of companies for this country in general in the world, we need to have more perspectives. So I would want to say that please invite not just people like us who are already here and understand it. I think we need to open up the opportunities for other people, as you said also, someone outside the industry. It's not that complicated, right? We learned how to understand or use the internet. We learned how to use mobile phones. We have learned a lot of things that were exponential new technologies. This is just the next level of this. Invite. It's not that complicated.
Thank you very much then, Ebba, Jakob, Håkon, and Remu. You all guys have some events in the near future or projects that you are investing and trying to involve the community. And community seems to be the red thread that links all types of works in this industry. So thank you very much then. And then we will close up the last session on this live event. We will then invite Vetle Lunde and Mats Eberhardt to the stage. And I don't know if our viewers know it, but we have in the Nordics quite good knowledge, intelligence, I call it, regarding the crypto industry. And of course, we have companies like Dune Analytics and other companies, but we also have people. So Vetle and Mats, welcome to this discussion. And if we start with you, Vetle, the title of this event is the state of Bitcoin. And what is the state of Bitcoin in a market context?
Well, I would classify it as like lukewarm optimism because currently you are in this situation where the Trump administration is offering a lot of like good positive news down the line with potential opening up of the crypto regulation and also the possibility of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But then on the other hand, you have all of this back and forth going on with tariffs, which generally leads market participants to broadly de-risk. So we see like in Bitcoin derivatives, for instance, it's no signs of froth despite Bitcoin trading at all-time highs. Traders are relatively reluctant with adding leveraged exposure in Bitcoin at the moment, despite Bitcoin trading near or at all-time highs. So it is positive developments down the line with everything that Trump has to offer in terms of crypto regulation. But market participants are justifiably cautious because of all the ongoing rapid big changes brought forward by the US administration.
What is your take, Mats? And maybe we could inform the viewers that Mats has maybe 1 or 2 weeks behind him, I don't know, in Firi. He has joined the team as an analyst. So welcome, Mats. And what is your takeaway regarding the market right now?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting me for this conversation, Morten. So overall, it is pretty much the same view as Vetle also had. We are in overall in an extremely positive crypto native environment, meaning that all the things that we can look at that relates directly to crypto. We have a regulatory environment in the US that has turned extremely positive from extremely negative, I would say. Then we have now a regulatory environment in Europe with the European Union's MiCA framework. And also we have adoption on Wall Street in terms of the ETFs, in terms of the banks having wanted a clear regulatory framework for them to adopt blockchain, Bitcoin, and digital assets in general. And that we're looking into now. We see all-time high issuance of stablecoins as well. But then, as Vetle also said, then we have these macroeconomic concerns, especially relating to Donald Trump's tariffs. And this is a situation that changes pretty much daily, sometimes on a daily basis, also hourly, with Trump tweeting or writing something on Truth Social. So the problem is that people are hesitant to take on too much risk on their books right now.
If we go into an umbrella view, what is the importance of what happened 1.5 years ago about the ETFs in the States? And after that, the discussion about maybe everything would be tokenized. That was at least what the CEO of BlackRock said. What do you think about that, Mats?
So I think the ETFs has really changed the game of crypto. So to say, like, since the genesis block of Bitcoin January 2009, the banks and the more traditional financial industry has been very hesitant to touch crypto at all. So I think the ETFs launched in the Bitcoin ETF launched in January last year was really a point of no return, in the sense that now we had the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, actually going into crypto and now pretty much opening the Bitcoin market for more traditional investors, in terms of institutional investors, family offices, etc., but also retail investors that has traditionally driven this market. And the numbers pretty much speak for themselves. We have seen a net inflow of funds of about $44 billion, which is unprecedented in terms of ETF launches.
You can, of course, add anything to that, Vetle, if you want to, but I also want to ask you another question about these Bitcoin treasury companies. Of course, your company, K33, is also going for that strategy, but you are working as an analyst and you're head of research. So let us get that view. What do you think is the importance of this to the market and to adoption, for that matter?
Yeah, so the treasury company wave that we're seeing right now is definitely motivated by providing investors access to some kind of Bitcoin exposure through a vehicle they can invest in. So that's MicroStrategy's call it bread and butter, and why the Norwegian Oil Fund has a small allocation in it, and why investors are allocated in MicroStrategy, and we see that it's emulated across many different exchanges right now, and it is a fundamentally positive move for the market right now, because these vehicles absorbs a lot of Bitcoin supply. But what has to be added is that, for instance, with MetaPlanet or the French company, the Blockchain Group, these stocks of these companies are trading at huge premiums to the current holdings of Bitcoin, and it is some sense of mania within like some of these treasury vehicles. So the risks within like those companies are contained to those companies. They hold relatively few Bitcoins, the Blockchain Group in France, for instance, but and it takes a lot for them to be a forced seller. But there are like some tendencies of mania going on in those companies, as well as you can see some early evidence of dilution in like investor interest in MicroStrategy, which has been one of the flag bearers of the strong bull market Bitcoin has faced in the last half year. Its premium to its Bitcoin holdings is narrowing more or less every day as new alternatives pop up, and it's getting gradually harder for Michael Saylor to continue diluting his own shareholders through the ATM. So the market structure is now, with all of those new treasury companies emerging, starting to become a bit more complicated, and it also maybe eats away some of the ability of strategy to continue to accumulate as aggressively as they have. But it's a very interesting development, but there are dangers worth being aware of, at least as a shareholder of one of those most highest priced companies.
It has also many been called sort of a new asset class, and how hard is it then to understand it? Start with you, Mats. Have you found any new type of methods to evaluate them, because they don't have cash flow, but still people are talking about yield? And the premium that you talked about, Vetle, is of the value of the stock compared to the value of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So how can investors differentiate between the good and the bad in this market? Mats, do you have any opinions about that?
Yeah, so it is, just as an analyst as well, it is pretty complicated to assess these firms, namely because of the fact that they are trading largely due to their Bitcoin holdings and not their intrinsic values of the cash flow that they generate from their normal business. In terms of MicroStrategy, it is their provider of intelligence software, and in the end, it is up to the market to decide what either premium or discount does the market think these firms should be trading at. And we saw it with MicroStrategy last year that the premium that it trades at relative to its Bitcoin holdings, it varies quite significantly. And also, as Vetle said, it also depends on how pretty much maniac or leverage the market in general also is. But it is tough to value these firms, especially as there become more and more of these firms, which in the other way also somewhat dilutes the role of MicroStrategy in the Bitcoin market, even though that it has the by far largest Bitcoin holdings of over 500,000 Bitcoins.
Let's go back to the market, Vetle, and there are two headlines that I've seen. I'm not quite sure about the status right now. One is then sort of a decoupling of crypto compared to the stock exchange, and the other one is the Bitcoin dominance, which is on the top level. You can pick and choose.
I can answer to both of them, but we are maybe seeing some signs of decoupling right now, but directionally, if you look at Bitcoin compared to Nasdaq or the S&P in the past half year, it moves generally in the same direction. Bitcoin bottomed a bit earlier, and it's currently trading above or at all-time highs, whereas equity indices are slightly below it. And then there have been a few days with some intraday moves that have not been the same in Bitcoin as equities, but generally they tend to move in the same direction. What has been interesting, particularly for me, is that in March, late March and early April, when the markets were peak frightened about the tariffs, you saw that Bitcoin moved less volatile in a less volatile pattern than equity indices. So Bitcoin showcased a lower beta than equity indexes, and that was a very promising observation of Bitcoin having some sense of robust demand despite all the uncertainties that tariffs included. And it's a completely natural response because while tariffs are a challenging thing to digest for the market, so is the implications of future policy changes by the US related to crypto. And that's a net positive part of the Trump administration for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin should, and crypto in general, should behave a bit stronger than equities in this environment. And so it did. And that was a very interesting observation back then. And for now, in terms of what you mentioned about Bitcoin dominance, it all tracks down back into the Bitcoin ETF launch, I'd say, in January last year. It made Bitcoin far more accessible to a bunch of new investors, both institutional traders, but also retail traders who hadn't signed up on a crypto broker or crypto exchange before. So a lot of the inflows got into Bitcoin. And then when ETFs launched during summer, it happened during a very unfortunate time window, like for the market generally. Flows were definitely impacted by the general state of the market. It's like some historical context there is that both ETF launches was affiliated with Grayscale going from close-ended to open-ended. So ETH had the effect of seeing its ETF launch during a bear market with Grayscale just pushing in Ethereum back into the market from investors who seek to close out of that trade. So it was a challenging environment for altcoins already back then. And then it's a very clear and simple narrative with Bitcoin. It's a scarce asset that you can send to anyone, anywhere in the world, and it's even suitable for governments to hold it as a strategic reserve. Whereas with all other cryptocurrencies, you have to have some kind of assessment of like how many people will use this network, will it have utility, will people need the cryptocurrency to do activities on that network, and it's far less straightforward. So the Bitcoin pitch is simple, and ETFs made it accessible, and then dominance has just evolved from that status.
What is your view on these topics, Mats, and then we will wrap up the discussion.
I think in general that I have also, if you have told me how well Bitcoin has performed for the past 2 years, if you had told me that for 2 years ago, then I would have probably not believed you, because Bitcoin has been extremely strong relative to other asset classes, but also within crypto itself. And I think going forward, at least in the short to medium term, I think investors are in general considering why to take on positions in other cryptocurrencies relative to Bitcoin. When if they do that, they also take on much more risk, and they need to consider whether the much more risk is in line with the expected return. I think investors will start asking that question. So in general, Bitcoin has just performed really nicely over the past few years, and I think going forward with more institutional interest in crypto, I think there will be bubbles of the crypto market that will do really decent, but also, as Vetle said, then they need to perform on other metrics. They need to have good tokenomics. They need to pretty much turn a profit by a revenue that is on-chain, that goes directly back to holders. They need to have a real utility in the real world, and probably also see some institutional demand. If they can do that, then I think they can perform nicely and maybe even better than Bitcoin. But it is a pretty small subset of all cryptocurrencies. I think that would be able to do that in the foreseeable future. And speaking of these metrics, I think, and that's the good part about Bitcoin, it has been pretty much spared from all these metrics because it performs on a pretty straightforward narrative, which is somewhat of a digital gold. So it doesn't have to have a transactional revenue that goes back to holders. It is just a scarce asset, and I think both retail and institutions will appreciate that, and also appreciate the less risk of Bitcoin relative to other cryptocurrencies.
Thank you very much, then, Vetle and Mats, for these market thoughts and outlook. And we will then wrap up this live event with just some closing remarks from myself. So thank you, Vetle, and thank you, Mats. I was just going to a very short wrap up here, because what we have seen today is that today we can discuss Bitcoin in a lot of different framing, a lot of different contexts. So it's not only digital gold, it also being a part of new business ideas, new ways of presenting lending and ownership, and involving new and old financial markets like traditional finance or private equity or payments or whatever. So we will follow up that in Kauper, and going forward, we have also had some people here from different kinds of communities, and I would remind people that In June, 18th and 19th of June, there will be this large blockchain conference in Stockholm from Nordic Blockchain Association. Kuiper will be there. We have also heard about the largest Bitcoin conference in Helsinki in August. And going forward, we will also develop new concepts. And if you want to look at this in the recording, you can have a recording on all the different platforms. When it comes to follow-ups and going deeper into the future of finance, we recommend, for instance, our newsletter, Future of Finance, which will be our main vehicle going forward on the newsletter side, trying to summarize and give a map of both on the investment side, on payment side, and on the Nordic stock area regarding crypto companies. So thank you very much for today, and have a nice evening.